thank you for being here. You know, there are speakers who believe that being in the last slot is not so good. They call this the graveyard slot. I actually love it because I know that by now you have already had an amazing day. I've learned a lot myself. So there are very few expectations left. You're already happy. What you needed to get from today's event, you already got it. And if you're here, you're probably waiting for lunch, so you have to bear with me 20 more minutes. So it's actually the best time for the audience to be here, so I'm going to take full responsibility. If you're bored, it's my fault. So I'm setting this challenge for myself. Now, I want to talk about this little topic. Actually, Hamoud already introduced it a little bit. I want to share something with you that gets you in the mindset that's the background of my book. Is that it? It is. So what year was I born in? The hint. So I was born in 1980. I now live in Abu Dhabi. I was born in Italy. Now I live in Abu Dhabi. I live in Al Munira, close to Yas. And earlier today, I drove up here. It's about 30 kilometers drive. If I had driven an average car in 1980 to come here, it would have taken me about 4 liters of fuel. Today, I drove a 2018 car, and that took about 2.25 liters of fuel. You see that? There's an improvement in fuel efficiency, so a technological improvement there, of about 45%, give or take, which is really, really good. Now, that's the way we understand progress in technology. We look at improvements over time, and I think that all of you understand what it means, right? An improvement of 40%, that makes kind of sense. Let me compare that with digital technology. When I was born, that was the best personal computer you could buy, the Apple II. Oh, I'm going this one. Thank you. The Apple II was the best personal computer you could buy. Let me assume that you would not be able to afford a hard drive for it. A hard drive back then would have cost the equivalent of $25,000. So you would not buy it. You would rather buy a car, I guess. But you would probably spend about $2,000 on this. Can you see the, well, you can't see, but on the floppy disk reader. The floppy disk reader for the 525 inches floppy disks. Have you all seen it at some point in your life? So if you wanted to put music on this, how much music could you store on a 525 inches floppy disk? I'm talking about a high standard music, so CD quality, which is the best we can record nowadays. How much music would you put in one of these? Yeah, you're very close. Any guesses? In time, how long? What's the length of high quality music you could store on this disk? 30 seconds? Very close. It's actually less. It's actually almost 1 second. Sorry? Yeah, so the 525, the initial version were 160 kilobit. That's the first drive. In 1980, that was it. And 1 second of high quality music is 176. So not even 1 second. Now compare that with my phone or any of your phones. How much high quality music can you put on your phone today? 17 days of continuous high quality music. Actually 16.8, but you get the number. Now this is an improvement of 1.5 million times. In fact, it's several orders of magnitude different from what we were talking about a second ago. And that's just the performance. Look at the size. What's the size of that floppy drive? Something like you can't even put in your pocket. What's the size of the hard drive of my phone? It's so tiny. If I opened the phone, you wouldn't find it. And how much does it cost? That drive costs $500, give or take. How much does my hard drive cost? We don't know because it just comes with the phone, right? By phone, they give you one that's 1.5 million times better than the best hard drive technology when I was born. This is to give you an idea of the speed of change in technology. And this means many things. One of the things is that the speed at which the world is changing has increased. In fact, the nature of change has changed. Have you ever heard about the acronym VUCA? We now say that we live in VUCA times. So our world is more volatile, change is faster and more disruptive. More uncertain, what's that? Well, it means that we don't know where the next change is coming from. More complex, which means that more factors are interacting with each other. I mean, we all experienced this at some point. 2008. Regardless of where you were in the world, what was your job or industry, you felt the consequences of the financial crisis. Did you? Have you all experienced the financial crisis, 2008? Yeah, I know. Let me make it a bit simpler than it really is. What caused it? There was some guy in a bank in the US, say in Miami, who approved of a mortgage for some other guy who could not afford it. And 3 years later, you're in Dubai and you are affected by a decision that was made by someone else that you don't even know somewhere else. This is still happening. And you can't keep track of all of this. And the last one is the notion of ambiguity. Things change so much, so fast, that sometimes we don't even know if they are good or bad. You know, in the last month, there have been at least 3 pieces of news that might have resulted in an increase of the oil price to $140. What happened in Turkey with the Saudi journalist, what happened with the reaction by President Trump, all of these political facts can change the price of oil just like that. If the price of oil goes up very quickly, is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's kind of both in a way, right? Which is great because you can always find the positive upside, but at the same time, it's a challenge. We don't know whether this is good or bad. So, I told you earlier, our technologies change at a much faster speed than fuel efficiency. Let me ask you a question. What if fuel efficiency had improved 1.5 million times? How much fuel would it take me to drive from home to here? Yeah, that. Exactly. What would happen next? How many gas stations will you find around the city? None. And then if transportation gets cheaper because fuel is cheaper, then maybe the way we manufacture and distribute goods will change. Maybe we can have a big factory somewhere where we have large economies of scale that makes everything cheap, and then we ship everything because shipping is also cheap. So that changes the face of industry. And then where do workers go and live? They will go and live next to the factory. And this will change the face of cities. So an improvement of 1 million times in one technology changes the world. What about an improvement of 1 million times in all of the digital technologies that are changing at this time? Hard drives, blockchain, artificial intelligence, computing power, big data. All of these are changing at the same time, and they are giving place to what we call a revolution. In fact, the fourth industrial revolution is nothing else but the convergence of this digital transformation. And this changes the world. So, when I go out, I travel a lot. I really travel much more than I enjoy. But as a professor of entrepreneurship, and I work with companies, I go out a lot and we talk about this stuff, and then companies and students really, they ask me, so what do we do? So how do you succeed during this time of disruption? How do you succeed during the fourth industrial revolution? I'm a professor, so the only way I know how to answer a question is write a book. Now, I have to tell you something. When you hear professors saying, I'm writing a book, it probably has not started yet. It's just like when you ask students, how's the essay coming along? They say, oh, I started, it's really going well. It's not true. But I actually have. So the book is in the making. And it's in the making thanks to many of the people that have come to listen to me, participate in my classes, and I work with, including this type of conferences. But so the question is, how do you succeed as an organization in the fourth industrial revolution? And I'm going to share my answer with you. There are 6 strategic drivers that you need to be aware of. And these are, if you want to compare, to position my book relative to Professor Gupta's book. Professor Gupta's is really about the implementation of strategic of digital strategy. Mine is really about understanding the drivers. What are the forces that are changing around us that makes us change the way we compete? And the answer is, actually, it's in the title. This is the framework I'm working on. It's an acronym of the 6 pillars that I believe you need to be aware of, the 6 strategic drivers you need to be aware of in the digital era. I'm not going to talk through each one of them in detail, but I want to walk you through them very quickly. So, I love the acronym. Actually, when I came up with the acronym, I thought I can write a book. The first one is C. C stands for collaborative intelligence. What it really means is that in an era of such complexity and such fast change and such big challenges, the skills of human beings may not be enough to succeed anymore. We need to bring on board more skills. And what this means, usually, is to combine the skills of humans with those of machines. I'm going to show you a slide, a quick photo. This is the factory floor of Tesla. I love this photo. Why did I choose it? There's no people. In fact, this is the first attempt at manufacturing cars without using human beings. It was a big failure. It was such a big failure that they tried to re-engineer it multiple times. Eventually, they found a solution, hiring humans. Because there are some of the things that these robots can do, like stamping, welding, painting pieces of cars and their chassis, but they cannot assemble it, because assembling requires skills that computers don't have. In fact, whenever Elon Musk talks about anything, he tweets really, and what he says, and I really love this tweet, is that humans are underrated. It was a big lesson there. Automation really should come together with an optimization between the skills of humans and the skills of machines, and in fact combining them to achieve outcomes that would be unimaginable if they are taken separately. When people take photos, I stop, I freeze. I don't know why, but... All right, I'm going to skip a few slides, but I'm very happy to talk about any of these topics later. This was the first pillar. Now, my second pillar is what I call learning systems. You may have heard about artificial intelligence many times. I kind of reject the notion that there is intelligence. But there is learning. So I'm going to show you another photo. I want you to tell me what you see. Could you give me a title for this photo? A caption. What do you see? Frisbee. Excellent. What catches your attention here? Strategy, competition. So if we look at the mere description, like a caption that describes this photo, I'll show you what Google's algorithm will call it, and what most people would call it. You'll be shocked. The human caption is, a group of men playing frisbee in the park. Google's algorithm would call it, a group of young people playing a game of frisbee, which is unbelievable. You look at this and say, wow, that's really smart. That's really intelligent. But let me show you a few more of these photos and see how the algorithm really does. Let's look. Well, these are the very successful ones, so not very interesting. This is where they make some mistakes. And as we walk, you see more severe mistakes. And as a professor, I love mistakes, so I'm going to focus on this one. Can you see this photo here in the middle? On the right, the central row? What do you see? Give me a caption for it. What do you see over there? A street sign with stickers on it? how come Google's algorithm sees a fridge full of foods and drinks? What about the dog jumping to catch a frisbee? Do you see it? So where's the intelligence now? There's no intelligence, my understanding of intelligence, but there is learning. Learning means that you improve your performance, you change your behavior based on experience. And that's our biological definition, and it's true also for machines. In fact, if we train the machine long enough, it will get all of these photos right. But it takes time. I'm going to speed up a little bit, right? So this was the second pillar. The third pillar are the technologies that grow with exponential rate. So, like my phone and any digital technology, as we discussed at the beginning. The fourth pillar, I can go through this very quickly because it was covered extensively by Professor Gupta in the morning. Think about, have you used the Careem before? Or Uber? You're all familiar with it, right? Where is the value created in a Careem transaction? I pay, the driver drives me, he creates value for me, and I pay him. That's a value creation. But Careem doesn't do any of that. What Careem really does is makes this exchange easy. So it's a business model built on value facilitation instead of value creation. And these platform models are now 5 of the 10 largest capitalization companies in the world operate such model. I'm going to go through to the E. E is ethical championship. 2 reasons. I'm happy that our friend from Facebook is not here. I'm going to say bad things about Facebook. Is she still here? No. Good. That's why we were waiting for her to leave before I could speak, right? You've heard what happened with Facebook earlier this year. There was this problem with Cambridge Analytica, use of data. Facebook managed to lose $120 billion of market capitalization in 3 months. Is that a lot? Do you know what company is worth more or less 120 billion? McDonald's. How can you destroy the value equivalent to the whole McDonald's in 3 months? In 2018, the only way is with an ethical slip. And what are the brands that grow fastest, even in traditional industries, like fast-moving consumer goods? We know the example of Unilever. The fastest growing brands for Unilever are the brands with a purpose. Brands that associate a positive, strong message. So I'm going to skip through a few slides, and I want to get to the last one. The last one is that in the times we live in, where change is so rapid and unpredictable, you can't have your nice 5 years, 10 years strategic plan. You need to learn how to make decisions in a reactive and responsive way. And this captures the idea of understanding the evolving needs of your customer, which is, again, something that's been discussed extensively, and being agile. Now, if you manage to learn and understand these 6 strategic drivers and master them, then you're set for an amazing trajectory on the 4th Industrial Revolution. Thank you very much.